Our brains are also different. So there are some binaries.
Oh, wow. Security! This is what happens. Oh, did they shut off the volume? Can you hear? Can everybody hear?
What's up, guys? Nuance Bro checking in, and today we're going to talk about the James Damore panel at Portland State University. Now, before we start off, you can probably see I've got new glasses here compared to my older videos. I lost my original Tom Ford glasses when I was in Thailand a few weeks back, but no worries. I have another pair of stylish bro shades to continue the show. So as you can probably see by the title of this video, James Damore had a panel at Portland State University along with other people such as Heather Hying and Professor Boghossian, etc. Now, if you don't already know, James Damore is the now infamous ex-Google employee who circulated a memo internally within the company talking about diversity and echo chambers and things like that, and he was ousted and fired for it, hence why he's the ex-Google employee. And he's giving a talk at Portland State University along with these other speakers about diversity and talking about, what kind of diversity is important, the explanation for, just exploring the topic of diversity as much as possible. Now, Damore has been demonized by people in the media and academia who misrepresent his views. So this panel was about discussing these ideas out in the open and having a Q&A session and, basically having a dialogue. But not everybody at this talk was a fan of free expression and dialogue. As you can see by the video clip I'm about to show you, some leftist agitators decided to sabotage the event.
This is a strange position to be in, to be arguing for something that is so universally and widely accepted within biology. What is not as widely accepted is that culture is also evolutionary, but I'm going to argue that biology and culture are both evolutionary. Let's look at differences between men and women that are explicitly anatomical and physiological. Are men taller than women on average? Does anyone take offense at that fact? Are you irritated?
There's always a standout.
So I would say you could be irritated by it. You could be irritated by the fact that women have to be the ones to gestate and lactate. You could be irritated by a lot of truths. But taking offense is a response that is rejection of reality. So men and women are different on height, they're different on muscle mass, they're different on where fat is deposited on our bodies, right? Our brains are also different. So there are some binaries.
Oh, wow. Security! This is what happens. Oh, did they shut off the volume? Can you hear? Can everybody hear?
So as you can see, as soon as Heather Hying decides to bring up biological differences between men and women, particularly when she mentions that women lactate, for example, which is a biological fact known to anybody who's reasonable and sane. It's not controversial in biology or in mainstream society. But these people were so offended by the notion that women lactate that they got up, made noise, walked out, and sabotaged the camera and audio equipment to the point that it actually made their microphones not work. As you can see here, they started voicing their opinions a little bit more.
Really? He's a piece of shit. That is not okay. Even the women in there have been brainwashed.
Should not listen to fascism. It should not be tolerated in civil society. Nazis are not welcome in civil society.
Fuck the police! Power to the people! Thank you.
So as you can see, they're saying these people are Nazis, they're fascists, fascist viewpoints shouldn't be respected. But none of these people identify as Nazis. None of these people support right-wing Nazi ideology. None of them are even supporting alt-right figures such as Richard Spencer and the like. These are many of these people are kind of on the left. Heather Hying and her husband are, noted leftist professors. That Peter Boghossian has never voted for a Republican in his life. These are not Republican or even right-wing people let alone Nazis and fascists. But these agitators, these leftist agitators, they consider everyone who disagrees with them a Nazi. As long as you call them a Nazi, as long as you call them white supremacist fascists, you can discount any sort of reasonable dialogue, and you can paint yourself as the good guy, the hero for disrupting people who disagree with you. Not everyone who disagrees with you is a fascist, communist, or any sort of thing that you despise, the extremes of what you despise. People can be reasonable and disagree with you, but that sort of mentality has no place in their minds. They can't even conceive, or maybe they do, and maybe they're just intellectually dishonest, but I don't know if that's the case. Now, after they leave, Peter Boghossian, who's a assistant philosophy professor at Portland State University, he actually stood up and he made some pretty, I think he made some interesting remarks.
All right, well, we're going to raise our voices. The conversation's going to go on. Let me be crystal clear. Let me be crystal clear. People do not have the right to tell you what you can and cannot listen to. People do not have the right, fringe elements of society do not have the right to hold you hostage to discourse. This is a university. If we cannot have this conversation here, we can't have it anywhere. We have to be able to talk about it. No issues will solve themselves. That sort of behavior is unacceptable in civilized societies. And if that person is a student, they should be given a warning, and if they do it again, they should be expelled from the university.
And he's absolutely right here. This kind of action has no place in civilized discourse, civilized society. If we can't have these discussions, like he said, on a university campus, well, then we can't really have open dialogue or discussions at all. And when you can't have dialogue, it basically leads to violence. Because when you can't discuss ideas freely and openly, people resort to violence. This has been just shown throughout history. Now, of course, after that, they opened it up to questions and answers, and there were still some agitators in the audience. I'm not going to include those clips. You can go watch the full video if you'd like. But there was another point that Peter Boghossian made that I really think deserves being shown, so I wanted to show that now.
It's very hurtful to me when people don't extend that charitable umbrella, and they go from the charitable umbrella immediately to Nazi. You know, no, when I walk in the bathroom and I see my name spray painted with swastikas all over the walls thinking I'm a Nazi, and when I see racist and white supremacists giving my daughters another race, that's incredibly hurtful to me. So as a minimum, don't do that. Now, one tier above that. So here's some specifics that I would say. Ask somebody how they know what they know. Very rarely will people invoke a defensive posture when you ask them how they know what they know. They have defensive postures and arguments for conclusions. Another great trick, I published a piece about this in the Skeptic magazine in 2017. If there's one thing I've learned from, 20 years of researching and seriously thinking about critical thinking, this is going to be almost a heresy when I say this here, but it's don't ask somebody for their evidence. It's a total waste of your time. Ask somebody the following questions. Under what conditions could your beliefs be false? I'm not saying I can provide those conditions, but what evidence would you have to see to make you revise that belief? Now, if their response to you is, well, there is no evidence, then your response to them is, then you don't formulate your beliefs on the basis of evidence, because to formulate your beliefs on the basis of evidence by definition means that another piece of evidence would come in and you revise your belief. But as a rudiment to the conversation, focus on how people know what they think they know.
Now, I'm actually a pretty big fan of looking at things in this way. As you can probably see in my videos, I employ a lot of this same sort of thinking when I question people, because not a lot of people ever come and think about things in this sort of way, where they believe in falsifying their own ideas and really coming at it from a scientific perspective. And, what he talks about when he says, is there any sort of, what kind of evidence could I show you that would change your mind? That really resonated with me, because in my last videos, you guys might have seen, when I asked one of the protesters who was a teacher, I asked her, is there any evidence that I could possibly supply that would ever change your mind? And she said no.
And we need to get guns off the street.
So nothing would change your mind, no facts or
Nothing
anything?
would change my mind on that. Nothing
enough.
would change my mind about gun control.
At that point, you really can't necessarily reason with a person, and you can't have an honest discussion because they're not really deriving their opinion from evidence and facts. They're just ideological, and they're not going to change their mind.
I want to pick up on that first. That you've just described hypothesis-driven science as opposed to data-driven science, which is what a lot of is passing for science these days. So hypothesis-driven science starts with an idea that you try as hard as you possibly can to falsify.
Yep, falsify. That's the key.
Falsify.
Falsify.
And if you cannot do it, the more times you've tried to falsify it and the more times you cannot do it, the more likely it is that it's true, although you haven't proven it true. But the more likely it is that it's true, the harder that you yourself have tried to falsify it and offered it up to your friends and your enemies and seen if they can falsify it.
Yep. And I'll add one more kick to that. It's the most important time to do that is in the moral realm. Diversity, anything. All those questions to us should be all the feasibility questions. Boom, 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 boom. How could your belief be false? What could be wrong? What evidence could I provide you with to make you rethink diversity? What evidence about inclusion? Boom. If you do that, you create wedges in people's cognitive structures that allow them, it's in the Greek, they call it aporia, like a state of wonder. They're like, oh, wow, I never thought of that. It's cool. But you're not feeding them any evidence. You're asking them what evidence they can provide.
So what did you guys think? Did you guys enjoy this video? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Support me on Patreon. Social media links are in the description box below. And I'll see you next time.